We are the Knights of Awakening. And today is a Knights of Awakening episode. That's right, we're going to talk about some knightly topics today. Mostly to do with justification of actions. The news has been filled with people justifying this or that. And every day, in every way, I see people justifying one evil action for a good action. The ends justifying the means. I feel like I've done this show before. Maybe a dozen times before. Or maybe I've just had this speech given on other shows by me, such as Ashland Nights when it was more of a thing, such as Knights of Awakening back when it was Justin and David doing the talk show, and they would bring people on, maybe even on some of my own show segments, maybe on some of Mike Hannigan's shows, or other hosts that were part of it, maybe on Force Realists. I don't know. I feel like I've done this show before, and yet I can't find it in my archives, at least nothing recent, nothing relevant. So I wanted to hit on this. We tend to justify things, and we justify a lot of things that we don't need to. Generally, if you have to justify something, it's probably not fully true, or at least you're having to do some kind of mental gymnastics to get from point A to point B. And that's always a dangerous position. If you're doing a lot of mental gymnastics to achieve self-realization, self-actualization, or to allow yourself to do an action, you've got to really reconsider it. You know, I was a really dark person once, and I think part of the way people view me is because I tell the story so often. Part of it is because I'm ashamed of who I was, and part of it's because I'm proud of who I was. And what I mean by that was I displayed so much gross displays of power that I can't help but be a little bit proud of the things I was able to do. And yet, I'm not proud of the man I was at the time. And to this day, if I am bombarded by enough stress, if I am hit with enough things, I get this incredible rage, this amazing rage, and I become the incredible asshole. That's right, not the Incredible Hulk. Who, the angrier he gets, the angrier he gets. Which is not really exactly the greatest tagline of all time. But what I've realized over the years is that I do a lot of loops to justify still being who I was, or even worrying about who I've been, instead of looking at what I'm doing right this minute and the differences I'm making here and now. And I think a lot of people justify who they are by who they have been. You know, I can do this because I was this. I have the right to say this because I was that. And the truth is, you have the experience. I have the experience of being the incredible asshole. An asshole unlike any asshole you've ever seen before. You know, the angrier I can get, the more asshole-ish I become. But it's not really what I do anymore. And moreover, I don't kill at will, that's for sure, with magic or any other means. Though, for the police investigation that I'm sure will be released after this, I've never killed with my bare hands. Save a chicken for food. A couple chickens for food. Which is a unique experience that everyone should try at least once and have a rotisserie ready after. I don't believe in killing animals without purpose, but you should definitely know what it's like to eat food you have, prepared yourself and taken the life of yourself, if you really want to still eat meat. Which I do, so bring on the chickens. That said, we like to justify things. We like to say, I did this evil action for a good cause. I did it for the right reason. And that should be the first warning sign for any of us on the nightly path. If you're doing something for the right reason, that's a risky situation. You've got to ask why you have to do the wrong thing for the right reason. You've got to ask if there were other options available, better options available, options that would lead to less harm or less destruction or less chaos or just less anything. We do this all the time. Recently in the news we have all these riots and such, and I don't keep up with the news. I find the news boring, and it's the same thing I've seen my entire life. Literally. I don't remember the news being any different. It's always been like this. It's just a new face on the same old thing. And that same old thing is person A says, this is wrong and this is evil, so I'm going to do this even more wrong and evil thing for the right reason. This is not the direction to go, ever. There are times when you will do actions that you would otherwise perceive as evil, but they are few and far between. And generally, you will be able, always, you'll be able to say, I didn't have to ask if the ends justified the means. They simply did. It's a balancing act that we always weigh. Don't get me wrong. You shouldn't be asking, is this right? Or, is this application of force or methodology? Especially for the practicing mystics out there, for those mystic knights like me. You're going to weigh this. And for the mystic knight, we've got to weigh it more than anyone else. More than anyone else. Because for us, it often takes minutes to enact vengeance. As I've had some experience with my own anger over the past year or two, I've enacted less vengeance. I haven't enacted any vengeance, actually, in the past year or two. I've talked about it. I have vented about it. I have stomped up and down and declared that I was going to, and then decided not to. I've done preventative strikes in the past, and I've done a fair bit to defend myself and others when under attack. But when it comes to the old, the ends are justified by the means are justified by the ends. Yeah, the ends are justified by the means. Why not? We'll justify the ends now. And that's an equally bad situation. Justifying the outcome by the process. Bad things happen, but at least we did it the right way. That's equally stupid. If you got to justify your action internally to that degree, then you probably shouldn't have done that, whatever it is. Moreover, people take a real, high and mighty stance anymore as to what they should and shouldn't do instead of being decent human beings. They take a high and mighty stance for, I have been able to logically reason out that this is right and that is wrong and this is this and that is that. And I know the truth and I understand this because I've went through my little circles. You know what? As a Knight of Awakening, I'm going to tell you right now, I don't know the truth. I'm on a quest for the truth, personally, every day of my life. As a Knight of Awakening, I can't tell you what right is. I can tell you that I'm constantly striving to do what is right at that moment. And if what I'm doing at that moment is popping up on my radar as wrong, probably not going to do it. In fact, even in the most blood-level rages that I've been in, and I've had a few of those recently, I've had moments where I could have shattered my own teeth in anger. I don't act on them. Or if I do act, it's an outburst verbally, at most, or vent to keep from boiling over all the way. Moreover, I don't plot and make plans and then justify those plots and plans for the greater good. I think once we start going the route of the subversive, once we step into darkness, darkness consumes us. Stealth and work in the shadows are a concept of darkness that I have touched on in the past in my life. But I've come to the point where I've realized if you're going to be in the light and be a true being of light and good, or even a being of neutrality, such as I am, who still does good, one that sees light and dark as mere paradigms that should be done away with. If you're going to call yourself the good guy, you've got to be upfront and visible with everything you do. As soon as you start playing games of subterfuge and trickery, you've stepped out of the light. You've stepped out of the concepts of goodness. And as soon as you have to justify an action in that, to yourself or to anyone else, then you no longer have the ability to justify the action. Now, there are exceptions. There are always exceptions. The problem is that people like to hang on to one exception and then move it up the line. They like to use an exception for everything else. Because the truth is, our natures as human beings are kind of dark, kind of self-serving. We do what is right by our measure. And If people get hurt, then it's an acceptable loss. And I don't know that that's the way we should be. The Knights of Awakening was founded on the idea of heroism more than anything. A lot of people won't understand that. They're going to say, oh no, it was founded on the Jedi ideals. You'll note I'm not part of any of the Jedi sites anymore for a reason. I won't be. Because my view as a Knight of Awakening is that I don't have time to sit there and play justification games with people and have the same old discussions over and over again to no improvement for the same individuals. It's one thing to have a discussion with new people every time. It's another to be talking to the same old faces and still be going around in these circles. People are going to find reasons to justify very terrible actions. Because that's what they do. Because they really wanted to do the terrible thing. And they'll make certain that, in their mind, the means are justified by the ends. But you want to wear that big old H, that hero symbol, then you've got to go a step above that. The anti-hero in our culture has become such a prevalent thing. I joke a lot with Justin about him being like the Punisher, or this, that, or the other. And truthfully, he's a bit more like Captain America. And he jokes about me being like the Hulk. And truthfully, I think I'm a bit more like Superman at this point. And those comparisons may sound a bit strange. You know, anyone who knows Justin has seen his face, they know he looks like he is freaking, badass McBad. That's your new superhero name. You are badass McBad, Justin. That's you. And I look like the angry Norseman. Because I have what I call resting Norse face. It's kind of like resting bitch face, but it's more intimidating. And despite the fact that I've got the smile lines that prove that I've smiled over half of my life, I tend to think and to speak in a very focused and centered way, so my eyes kind of drift forward and I don't smile when I'm talking, and I don't emote the way most people do. And I get that. I look like the angriest man to ever live, especially when I'm walking down the street and I'm thinking about something. Wow, I've scared people before. Those things said, you have what appears to be a thing by looking at someone and by hearing their demeanor, and then you have to take into account their actions and how they've responded to situations. Justin is, badass McBad, but truth is, I've seen him as an uncorruptible force within this world. He refuses to be corrupted, and the times that he fails, the times that he makes mistakes, truly make him reevaluate everything he does and everything he stands for, and that is a valuable example of what we should be aiming for as modern-day heroes. The hero that is a plain-day hero. I'm not talking about dressing up in some goddamn costume. I'm talking about being heroic in the way you act towards others. I use the Superman comparison for myself, and part of that's because Superman has some anger issues that he keeps under really good control. Most people don't realize this, but you really got to be a fan of the character and look into the comics. There are a number of times that his eyes glow red, and everyone's always like, well, that's an artistic rendition to show that he's angry. No, that's him holding back heat vision. That's him knowing he can kill someone with a look and being like, nope, not gonna do it. Not gonna do it. Not today. As a practicing mystic, I get that feeling. I get it. You get so angry that you want to justify that end through those means. Truth is, unless the person's a danger to you or someone you're protecting or care about, and they're an active danger at that moment, you can't justify it. No matter what you do, you're not going to justify the action then. The possibility that they're a threat, everyone has the possibility of being a threat. Anyone could turn or have a psychotic breakdown. Anyone you hold close to you in your life could become a threat. Oh my God. Kill your children and spouses and brothers and sisters. They could be a threat. You better eliminate them while you still can. They could have a psychotic episode. You don't know. Stress gets to people. I'm not really advocating that, obviously. Heavy sarcasm for those that can't read the resting Norse face. But when you start making justifications on that level, it justifies all manner of evil and terrible actions. And I've seen a lot of justifying in various communities over the past few years. Since I've become kind of an online socialite within different spiritual groups, I've seen people justify all manner of things, and I'll teach anything. I believe that knowledge is valuable, and I don't make a judgment on what you're justifying or what you're judging right or wrong, or truth or lie or evil or good. It's not my place to judge that for you. I judge it for me. I won't do justice spells or retribution of any form unless it meets my justification, which is very saddening for a lot of people, because a lot of people come to me and they're like, Charles, please do this terrible thing. And I'm like, no. And they're like, I will pay you. And I'm like, I will hit the refund button. It's a powerful button. It takes me half a minute to get to it in my console on my admin panel. It takes me less than that to get to it on my PayPal account. Don't make me use it. But the other side of that, if someone is doing a terrible thing and I judge it to be awful and evil, yeah, I'll do retribution work. The caveat that if you're lying, it'll come back for you. Don't lie to me. It's not healthy. But that's who I am. And I've helped a lot of people through that. I've righted a lot of wrongs. But at no point while I was righting those wrongs did I have to justify it to myself. This guy beat you when you were married to him, left you bloodied, and the courts wouldn't do anything because it was outside of statute of limitations when you divorced him. I have no problem kicking this person's ass through magic and spell work. I don't see that as a bad thing. I don't have to justify it. To me, this is the natural way of things. Bad man, hurt weak person, hurt bad man. I'm a simple guy in that respect. But I also know that I can take personal insult or have things that I feel are really big to me, and I can become the incredible asshole. And most people can. But I curb it. I curb it by not letting becoming the incredible asshole mean going on a rampage through New York City and wiping out buildings. I curb it by not letting myself wage a path of destruction with my magic towards a target unless I feel completely certain and justified in doing so. And as a knight, I think that's important. And a lot of people are not going to agree with my stance on what it means to be knightly. But I think the anti-hero has become too much of a thing, and I think it's influenced our concept of the hero and of the knight as a result, because what is a knight to the modern day person but the hero? That's what Knights Awakening was founded on the idea that you can be a hero in your own life and that you can wake up and become something more than what you are. And I stand by that. But don't try to justify the ends or the means by each other. If you have to justify this outcome, I know this outcome is going to be bad, but I'm going to do this because doing this is the right thing to do. Seriously? I mean, if you know an outcome is going to be tragic, why would you do a terrible thing? Or why would you do a thing that you knew the outcome? You could choose to do nothing. That would be a choice, and it wouldn't even do anything to you. The other side of that, if you're going to do this terrible thing because you believe the outcome will be good, and notice, I said believe, you don't know the outcome is going to be good. You don't know that you're going to achieve your primary objective. The only thing you know for certain is what you're doing at that moment. That's all you know. You don't know that you're going to achieve your primary objective. Now, that's not good justification either. So, that's a little bit of what it means to be knightly. And it gives you a look into what it means to be a mystic knight. The ends don't always justify the means. And they're not always justifiable by the means. This is something we need to understand as a society. Be the hero. Do good. Do what is right and good in your own heart. And trust in your own goodness. If you're doing something and it feels like it's a bad thing, or you can look at it and be like, man, I know this is terrible, but I'm doing it for the right reasons, then you're not doing it for the right reasons. You're doing it because you're selfish. Because you absolutely have to achieve that end goal. And that's the height of selfishness. And it's the height of the anti-hero. And the worst part is the anti-hero didn't start with characters like Batman. They had codes and ethics that they wouldn't break. Start with characters like the Punisher, as much as I like him, and Ghost Rider and characters like that, where any evil was permissible because they felt it was right. Most of our anti-heroes have evolved into heroes over time. Their pasts have become things that they regret, and now they do good for the sake of good in the comics. That's because comic writers are tired of parents saying, my child hit another kid because they said they felt like they were being bullied, and they learned it from you. You have the power, as people out there watching this, to become knights, to be knightly, to do good for good's sake, to do right for the sake of right, to choose to do good over evil, and to know when you're justifying something versus when you actually have to do something. And that is a great power, and I hope you all utilize it. And I hope you all awaken the knight within.